Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Last Resort, a recent release on the Arcade Archives Neo Geo series on the PlayStation 4. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. As we start the game, we're given an awesome shot of our ship, the TZ-024. I feel that Last Resort is a title that's better played two-player, so here we've got the second player, which is actually a different ship in terms of art design. That's a feature I really like about this game, and that one is specifically the YS-024. We are the Last Resort, fighting an enemy AI that's hell-bent on destroying humanity, I'm assuming? So as far as mechanics are concerned, we start out with having a base shot, with this one being an Arcade Archives collection title. We do have the ability for rapid fire, but normally you'd have to press the button for each shot. Once we pick up a weapon power-up, we get what's called a unit, and those are the little options or bits that we have in front of our ship. That has two possible modes. You can have it rotate around your ship in the revolution mode, or you can fix it in one of the 8 directions around your ship by pressing the B button. In addition, if you charge up your shot, you can fire off the unit at the enemies, dealing heavy damage. So, as I mentioned, it's kind of like a cross between a Gradius option and an R-type bit. Useful. It also fires in the opposite direction that you happen to be moving as well, so if you're wanting to get firepower behind you, above you, really in any of the directions you can possibly think, that's a possibility. So once you've obtained your unit, the weapon power-ups have 3 possible letters on them that you can pick up. There's the H for homing missile, L for laser, and G for air-to-ground missile. Of those, the homing missiles are definitely my favorite, but they all have their uses. Although I dislike the air-to-ground missile the most, is there's only a handful of situations where it really does prove its value. We also have speed power-ups represented by blue S's, but you will occasionally find reverse S's that are colored gray that are speed downs. There are scenarios where you would want a speed down, as you can get moving too fast. So here we find ourselves at the boss of stage 1. His weak point's down below, fires like shots from it to destroy us. Rudely charges at us, and sometimes spits things out of his mouth at us as well. And as if fighting the bosses weren't hard enough, the game sees fit to spawn extra enemies to harass us throughout the course of the boss fights as well. So, part of the reason for playing this one two-player, Last Resort is the kind of title that will reset you to a continue point somewhere further back in the stage when you die. So, two-player allows us to progress further through the course of the game, but that does bring some problems that the title has. And I'll get to those in just a moment. One thing I really like about the title is the art direction. The pixel art in the game, especially the backgrounds, is beautiful, but even the ship design and the extra little details that are on the screen, like the cars that were on the highway in the first stage. Although, why would they not be blocking them off from a war zone is beyond me, but that aside, there's all these extra details on both the enemies and the background and the foreground. The pixel art is just incredible in this game, but unfortunately it does come at a slowdown penalty. There is slowdown present throughout the title, and that's not just the emulation present here, that was present in the original arcade release as well. It was just a lot for the system to handle. So, as far as the negative aspects, though, the game has some design issues. So, first off, one of the things I feel is problematic are the hitboxes for both our ships, which, as far as I can tell, is kind of a strange thin rectangle, but I'm not 100% certain on that. Also, enemy shots and sometimes enemies themselves seem to linger a long time. We also have, like this section here, where we're dealing with enemies that are insanely tanky for just being ground turrets. And all the shots that you have on screen, because you can't take these enemies out fast enough, leads to some heavy slowdown. There's also sections where I feel like the game is just being outright unfair. There's such coming up later on in the stage where you'll see in just a moment. And there's even some really bad boss and stage design. In situations where you are playing two-player, there are going to be plenty of opportunities where you might not have the units equipped on one or both of your ships. And that becomes a big problem with some of the later stages and later bosses, where you won't be able to actually hit the boss effectively if you don't have a unit. So if you're playing two-player, your only options are to try and die simultaneously and reset yourself to a point further back, or repeatedly throw yourself at the enemy to destroy the core, which will be behind you. It's not a very intelligent or intuitive system, especially where they spawn enemies during the boss fight. It would have been really helpful if those enemies also dropped power-ups when they were defeated. Well, there we have it. Last Resort served up for your enjoyment. So the plus flavors here, the pixel art, and it's just gorgeous in this game. The backgrounds, the enemies, all the effects. Like the explosions, for example, are just beautiful. But as far as the minus flavors are concerned, there's this problem with the stage design and the boss design, and that really kills the enjoyment for me. Although also just other quirky problems with hitboxes, both on enemies and shots, the challenging factor, it's just one that, at least for me, it doesn't really have a whole lot of fun to it. It's got a super challenging aspect, so if you're looking for that, it's definitely there. But for me, at least, it just wasn't that much fun. So I really can't recommend this title unless you're a Neo Geo fanatic and you want to collect as many of the arcade archives that you can. And even if you're looking for a really skillful, challenging shoot-'em-up, I could definitely recommend other titles over this one. Well, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you for coming out and joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.